Hey, what's up, YouTube? Hey, we back at it. Look, I'm at the gym. All right, the freeze is over. We're back at it. So hopefully I don't have to make any more videos from the crib. All right, so what I want to get at today is actually about entrepreneurship in general. So a lot of people, like, they think about entrepreneurship in the sense of, like, you hear a lot of people say this, or if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. I don't know where they got that from because I do what I love and I work every day, right? And I think I work way more for myself than I did when I was working for a company. And so I think what you got to do is you got to get to the point where like you're willing to work for yourself and willing to put in the work for yourself way more than you would for somebody else. And then you know you're at the entrepreneur mindset, right? So when it comes, my question would be when it comes to entrepreneurship, what is it that you really want out of entrepreneurship, right? Trying to get your time back, want to make more money, like all the things that you think about when you talk about entrepreneurship. I would question those things because if it's just make more money, entrepreneurship might not just be for you because you can make more money working for somebody else in any industry. You can always work your way up and make more money, which, like I said in previous videos, sometimes not a bad thing. Like continue to do that as long as you can because if you keep doing that, you can continue to stack. Before you step out there in entrepreneurship, you want to get as much experience as possible. Because once you're in it, you're in it. I'm not saying you can't go in it, go back to doing whatever it is you want to do, but once you hop in it and you have other people that you're responsible for, you're in it. And you have to be willing to sacrifice your time and certain things to make sure that other people are all right. So what I would say is before you even get into it, question why you want to get into it. Because again, if it's just money, there's plenty of ways to make money. Because entrepreneurship goes way beyond that. And so one of the first things I would look at and examine is where am I personally, right? Like where am I personally? If I want to be an entrepreneur, meaning I want to go out here and be a leader to others and make sure that others have, that I can provide for myself and others. Where am I? Like, do I manage my time? Well, do I manage other people well? Have I been in a managerial position to be able to manage people and see where I'm at? Because managing people is a whole nother ballgame. And I'm gonna talk about that in a second. Let me get back to managing yourself first. So if you don't have your schedule set up, like if you don't have a phone set out, you don't have your apps and your notebook or whatever it is that you use, and you can't look at it and see your schedule and manage your time properly, and you're always late and like you're never on time, you probably don't need to be an entrepreneur. I'm not saying you can't, but you might need to evaluate yourself first. So if you have yourself in order, right, you have your schedule set, you're always on time, and you know you always show up when you're supposed to show up, and all those things, then you're at least on the right path. And that's just in the industry, right? You could be a truck driver, you could be a nurse, a doctor, whatever it is that you're trying to do. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to do and handling yourself, you can progress within that field. And so what I would say is first, examine yourself to make sure that you're where you need to be before you step out there into entrepreneurship. Because again, once you step out here, it's a different ball game. I'll talk about myself, for instance. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? I always knew I did. I didn't know exactly which industry, and there's still other things I want to do. I don't think I'm gonna be a serial entrepreneur where I just do random things here and there, but I know I'm gonna have multiple, companies and so forth to a certain extent. Because the way I am, I like to get my hands involved, like get my hands dirty, get my feet wet within that business. In order to do that, you got to spend time in the beginning. That's why I said if you're trying to get your time back, you got to win your time back, right? And like that's a prize that you receive after you put in the work. That's not something that you automatically get when you first start. So don't let some of the so-called gurus fool you into thinking, oh, once you become an entrepreneur, your time is back and so forth. No, when you first start, you dedicate as much time as possible into that craft, into that business, into that idea or whatever it is that you're doing to make sure that it works first. And then when you start getting the monetary rewards later, you can start to win your time back. So back to my journey. If you didn't know, and I said in previous videos, when I first started, I had to make a decision, either stay at my job or leave. I ideally wanted to stay at that job and build and keep that salary going long as possible. And I also had another job working at the performance center doing, combine and pro day training for football athletes. So if I could have done both of those at the same time and build my business, that's ideally what I would have done. But I was given an ultimatum: either build your business, right, or stay here. So I made the decision to obviously leave and come build my business. And again, like I said before, I would have thought about it. I would approach that situation a lot differently, but I didn't. So here we are. I'm here in the business, and I jumped out to entrepreneurship, not understanding exactly how much time it was going to take, but I already was spending. It took me 45 minutes most days to get to work and another 45 minutes to get back home. That's if I didn't have to get the kids from daycare and so forth. That's an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes. That was time spent. But I was showing up at work on time, spending time actually training on the floor. But because I was also a general manager, I had to spend time managing other portions of the company and other people. So you had certain aspects of that I was doing. Now I'm seeing at this time, and before that, I was at a previous company where I was a head coach and working my way into possibly a GM position, learning the ins and outs of that business, how they operated, all the ins and outs of it, going to the corporate meetings, seeing how things are done on the corporate side. And so I'm starting to see certain things from that job moving up into the GM position at this job. And so now I'm starting to see, okay, this is what it takes to run a business. So I'm getting my feet wet for at least a year in that managerial position. So now I'm starting to see that, hey, I can actually manage a company. So you start to see how you can manage a company, which comes with managing people. And that's how I started to get the mindset of, okay, now it's probably time for me to go be an entrepreneur. Not just a trainer, because I had already done the training. I did the training on my own already. That's different. Being a trainer, doing your own thing, that's completely different than managing a company. I already knew I could do that because I did that before I had those jobs. So I already knew I could manage that aspect of my life as far as making sure I show up for people and things of that nature. But stepping into a role as a manager gave me more of an idea of what it's going to be like to be an entrepreneur. And so once I stepped out here into entrepreneurship, everything I thought I knew, didn't know. Had to go learn all over again because as an entrepreneur now, legally you're responsible for certain things and setting up your LLC in the beginning and all that type of stuff. And even that process I learned from because I did that wrong, and if I could do it all over again, I would. Right. So even that portion of business was completely different than running somebody else's business. Right. So now you starting your own LLC or your sole prop or whatever it is you decide to do. That's a completely different monster. And then going from just setting up the LLC, getting incorporated, and so forth with the state and all that type of stuff. Moving from that aspect now into actually operating a business and trying to get your bank account set up and all that stuff. That's a whole nother beast because now, again, you're talking about another level of responsibility for yourself and for others. Because with this bank account that you're setting up now, it's not like your previous bank accounts where you could just put money in, take money out as you please, and do your own thing. No, now you're responsible for payroll, you're responsible for bills, and all this other type of stuff, and it's got to go through this system. Because now you're talking about taxes and so forth. I'm not a tax expert. I deal with one who helps me. But now you got to start dealing with that aspect of business. So there's a whole lot that comes into it that you don't see. And on top of that, you still got to make sure that your gym is running a certain type of way. You still got to make sure that the performance is happening, people losing weight. You still have that aspect of the business. So there's a lot more to it than that. And then when you get into business, you start seeing how people can be. I'm not talking about people as far as the members that's coming to you, because the members, that's one thing. And, that's a, it has its place, right? So you build your relationship with the people that come in as far as members, and you don't have to worry about certain headaches, I would say, with that, even though it does come with some, and I'll mention that in a minute. But when you start dealing with people as far as employees, as an owner and as a GM, like that's where you start to see really what entrepreneurship is about, because now your leadership skills got to kick in, having team meetings and doing things throughout the year to build your in my case, my coaches, but your employees up, and make sure that y'all have all the necessary tools in order to be able to be successful, and having SWOT analysis and all these other things, because you need to know where the business is. That's when the work come in. And that's the stuff that's when they say, if you love what you do, you don't work a day. That's not true, because you got to work at becoming good at those things. Because yeah, you might be a great trainer and you're trying to open a gym, but you might not be great at the other stuff. And I'll be the first to admit, I play sports and I'm good at leading by example. I'm good at like, hey, get on my back, let's go. Sit down boardroom meetings, that's not me, right? But I had to make that be me. And for a long time, I did it super hard, and then I kind of got lax in it because that's not what I do, right? But I had to learn how to do those things. And so even coming into the new year, I told the coaches, hey, we're about to start having meetings, do this, do that, because I know it's necessary for the team, right? Yeah, I can show up to work every day, and I can get in here, and I can program, and I can train, and they can see me, and I do that all day because that's what I've been doing for the past 21 plus years. But when it comes to the other stuff, the other part of the business, I have to learn that part of the business. So what I'm saying is, when you step into whatever it is you're trying to do, realize that entrepreneurship is not just you doing what you do for your craft. Some people blessed enough, like artists and so forth, to maybe sell a big piece of art and get paid, or maybe you're a realtor and you sell a big piece of property, get a big commission, and okay, cool, but you still got to work. Like there's still some work involved, and sometimes that's the part that's missing. And like I said, I want these videos and the information I give you to be real. So I want you to understand that when you step into this business or any business, it's more than just doing what you like to do. Now you got to do all the other stuff to make sure everything else is taken care of. And you got to be the bigger person. And that's the hard part sometimes, being a bigger person. Because I've dealt with so many coaches in and out, so many personalities and egos and things of that nature, that you have to be the bigger person every single time, right? Have I been the biggest person every single time? No. 98% of the time, yeah. 2% of the time, there's been situations where it's like, all right, I look back and I could have handled this a different type of way. But being a leader and an entrepreneur, you have to at least be able to realize that so that you don't do it again, right? Because there's a lot of situations that come up. And what I had to learn how to do is detach my emotions from the business and make sure that the business stay business, right? And it's hard because you put blood, sweat, tears, time, sacrifice into the business. For somebody to be like, don't be emotionally attached to it, that's hard, because how can you not be when you built it from the ground up? And I think there has to be a certain level of emotional attachment, because if you don't have that certain level of care, then you're not going to run the business the way that you should, right? And you're not going to put the effort in to make sure the business is better and make sure the people are better. So there has to be a certain level of commitment as far as that emotional attachment, but not so much that it gets in the way of business, right? And I heard a truck driver, and I keep missing the trucks, and I'm getting into the truck business, but I heard a truck driver or a fleet owner talk about how he's not emotionally attached to the trucks and how he treats it like a business. Well, I won't mention what he said, but he uses the business in a sense to where he's not emotionally attached across any platform. So the drivers are the drivers, the trucks are the trucks, the work is the work, and he don't have any attachment to any of that whatsoever. But when I hear him talk about previous when he first started driving the trucks and the passion that he had for his first truck and the person that put him on and allowed him to get to, like, you can see the passion and care that he took initially, right before he got to that point. But initially, you have to have some type of love and care for your business, or it's not going to grow anyway. And so initially, I would say, yeah, be emotionally attached to it and be involved in every single thing. But when you start to grow, that's when you got to detach yourself from all the little bits and pieces of the business and have more of attachment to the overall growth of the business and seeing where it's going to go. Because that's where the real work is, and that's what's going to help you step away. So we talked about getting your time back, right? So that's why I got into it. Like I said in the beginning, I got into it because I always been an entrepreneur. I know I can run a business. I want to make more money, of course. But what I learned is the more money you make, the more you put out. And so it's not always just about the money. But the time part of it is very valuable. I have 4 children. 3 of my children are active and competitive in sports. I want to be there, right? I want to go see that. I haven't missed a game yet. And so I want to make sure I have missed a game, but not because of work. But so I want to make sure I'm there for them and make sure that I'm available for them. So my time is the most important thing. So in the beginning, I put in as much time as possible. And now I wake up 4 a.m. in the morning and put as much time during the day as I can so that in the evening I'm available for them. So it's not that you don't spend time building and crafting, but you spend a lot more time at when you get to a certain point, spend a lot more time at certain points of your day doing certain things. So you're not booked all day training and programming and doing whatever else you do in this industry. So I have that time to go spend with my children, with my wife, with my family, right? And be able to travel. Like this weekend, we're going to Vegas. Daughter has a soccer tournament. I'm able to, still have money coming in, obviously, because the business is set up with a continuity program, like I told y'all before in a different video, meaning we have membership-based program and not all personal training-based. So now, just because I'm not here doesn't mean money is not rolling and flowing. So now I can still make sure that everything's getting taken care of when I'm in Vegas, right? And so, like, we have to get to the point, where we start to understand these things so that we don't just keep on strapping ourselves. Because if you do want your time back, you're going to have to work your butt off to get that back. There's going to come a day when I'm not even waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning anymore because the business is set up to the point where I can actually sleep in or wake up when I want to wake up, do whatever I want to do because I got the trucks rolling, got the gym rolling, and then I got even more of my time back. But guess what? Before then, I got to go put in time in this industry. I'm still working on my PhD here soon. So, like, I still got a lot of things to do and a lot of work to put in before I get to that point. But once you get to that point, then you can start to enjoy the fruits of the labor as far as your time back. But you got to work for that first. And so I just want to make sure that you understand that this takes sacrifice. And if you're willing to put the time in, you can get to that point of getting your time back and you can have the money that you want to have, things of that nature. But you got to make sure that you put the work in initially to get to that point. And once you get to that point, then you can sit back and you can say, all right, I got my time back, and go teach another entrepreneur the same thing. And that's how we start to grow within this industry or any industry, period. And so you know what time it is. It's your boy Coach D. Make an excuse, I'll make a way.